Hi, my name is Chaptini. I'm assistant professor at Yale School of Medicine. Today, I'm happy to discuss our manuscript to be published in Gastrointestinal Endoscopy entitled Variation of Polyp Size Estimation Among Endoscopists and Impact on Surveillance Intervals. As you know, the size of polyps found during a colonoscopy is an important factor to determine the surveillance interval. If you work around fellows, I'm sure you've had situations where you were asked to estimate the polyp size, or maybe you asked the fellow to do so, and oftentimes you find a major discrepancy in these estimations. This is where the idea behind this research project came from. We decided to answer two questions. First, what is the degree of variation in polyp size estimation among endoscopists? And second, since the variation means underestimation and overestimation, we wanted to know the impact of this variation on surveillance. To answer these questions, we recorded 4 polypectomies and we sent the recordings to ASGE members along with 4 demographic questions in an email survey. The demographic questions were about type of practice, academic versus private, years of experience, specialty, and number of colonoscopy performed per year. To determine the measurements of the polyps, we used the open biopsy forceps method, which consists in opening the 8 mm forceps next to the polyp and visually estimating the size. We actually took it a step further and we printed the picture of the open forceps next to the polyp, and we used the size of the forceps on the picture as a conversion scale to measure the largest diameter of the polyp. This was done for 3 of the polyps, A, B, and D, which you're seeing on the picture here. And for the 4th polyp, it was measured after retrieval with a Roth net and placement next to a ruler. The video recordings of the polypectomies were edited and included inspection from different angles and the subsequent removal of the polyp with a snare. Here I'm showing you polyp A, which is the 7 mm polyp. Here's polyp B, the 10 mm. As mentioned before, these were measured with the biopsy forceps method. Polyp C, which is the 15 mm polyp, was the only one that was measured after retrieval and placement next to a ruler. These are all excerpts of the actual recordings that were sent through emails to participants. And the last one is polyp D, which is the 5 mm polyp, and that was also removed with a snare. The primary endpoints of the study were 1, the accuracy of estimation given by the participants, and 2, the impact on surveillance. The accuracy was obtained by comparing the estimated size that were given by the participants to the correct measurements as it was defined previously. We decided to consider as acceptable measurements that fell within 20% of the correct measurement. The second endpoint was the impact on surveillance. Basically, for each of the polyps, we looked at the percentage of values that would change the surveillance interval. That is, estimation at 10 mm or more when a polyp is less than 10 mm, and estimation at less than 10 mm when the polyp is more than 10 mm in size. We sent emails to more than 9,000 ASGE members. Around 7,300 had a valid email address, and of those, 873 members responded to the survey. So it was around 12% participation. 61% of the participants were in private practice, and over 90% were gastroenterologists. Here are some of the results. When looking at all measurements from all polyps, we found that 48% of the estimates fell within the 20% range that we defined as acceptable accuracy. The remaining 52% either overestimated or underestimated the size of polyps. If you take each polyp individually, overestimation was more frequent than underestimation in 3 of the polyps. Just to give you an example, let's take polyp B, which is the 10 millimeter polyp. In this case, 49% of participants overestimated by more than 20% the size of this polyp. So practically what they said was that this polyp was 12 millimeter or above. 4% underestimated the size of this polyp, so practically they said it was 8 millimeter or below. When looking at the impact on surveillance, we found that it was affected in 5 to 14% of cases, depending on individual polyps. For example, if you take polyp A, which is the 7 millimeter polyp, 14% of the participants estimated the size at 10 millimeter or more, and this would have changed the surveillance interval recommendation. We also looked at the percentage of participants who overestimated 2 or more or 3 or more of the polyps. We found, for example, that 38% of participants overestimated 2 or more of the polyps. Subgroup analysis looking at the different demographic groups that I described earlier showed that participants from private practice settings overestimated polyp size more often than participants in academic practices. In summary, we showed that a substantial number of endoscopists over or underestimate polyp size when the estimation is done visually. Even when we considered estimates within 20% of the correct size as acceptable, the percentages falling outside of this range remained high. More importantly, we showed that this has a large impact on surveillance recommendations. These findings underscore the need to do a better job in estimation of polyp size during colonoscopy. One simple solution may be to use graduated markings on instruments used during a polypectomy, such as biopsy forceps or snares. This concludes this presentation, and I thank you for your interest.